Welcome to another session of Business Startup Training. Today we'll be looking at the coronavirus and the economic costs. This is presented by Accounting Lecturer. So our objective or our aim is to get a better clarity on the economic and the financial costs of the damage caused by coronavirus. So our objectives are the costs to business in China in light of the coronavirus, the costs to business in other parts of the world due to this coronavirus, the costs to sporting events in Europe and Asia, the solution for startups, and then we'll conclude. Now let's have a look at the cost to businesses or business in China. In light of the coronavirus, which actually started in Guan, where the population of Guan is about 11 million people. So if you shut down a city with 11 million people and there's not a lot of business taking place, that's going to cause a huge financial cost for the city, for shops, for cinemas, for transportation, for restaurants, hotels. Would be severely impacted in light of this. We can also look at the fact that cash flow would be impacted, and we know that cash flow involves inventory. In terms of the working capital side of things, it looks at inventory, it looks at accounts receivables, which is selling to customers and then waiting to receive the cash. So accounts receivable will be affected because you would have sold and you would not be able to recover the cash due to businesses being closed. So that will impact that side. Also, in terms of the stock side of things, stock will go out of date and therefore that will cause financial loss. Prepayments, again, you would have prepaid for services and they would not have been provided, and so therefore cash would have been lost there. And for those who have cash in the bank, it would now need to cover operating costs that would need to be paid regardless of whether or not you're operating, which is more likely fixed costs. So that the financial implications is quite significant for the cash flow side of things. I'm assuming insurance companies will also suffer significantly because the claim will be great as well. Now, also in terms of manufacturing, buyers will be reluctant to buy from China. I think in the short run that might be the case, but I think in the long run China is going to recover because they are so far ahead in terms of manufacturing. But in the short run, you might have supply chain challenges and also manufacturers or customers switching to other suppliers. In terms of the cost of businesses in China, now we know that the Chinese economy is one of the fastest growing economies in the world at the moment. It is said that the growth rate is going to be less than 4%. Now, if the current GDP for China is about 14 trillion and it normally grows at about 6, and is projected to grow about 6% pre-corona, so which works out to be about 0.84 trillion, which is 840 billion. If it actually grows less than that to 4 or less than 4, so which is about 2% drop from its current situation. So 2% of 14 trillion works out to be 0.28 trillion, which is about 280 billion. So a third of a billion would have been lost in the Chinese economy due to this corona situation, which is a quite significant loss. And from a global perspective as well, we're looking at a few trillion, maybe 2 or 3 trillion globally would have been lost due to this situation of the virus challenge. Now, in terms of the virus, just some bit of information about it. If you feel you have these symptoms, you need to call a medical professional. So if you have running nose, if you have cough, if you have sore throat and a high temperature, these are some of the indicators of the virus being in your body, and therefore you would need to get some medical help. It can spread easily, so you're meant to avoid public gathering. Now in China currently, there's a lot of people with masks covering their faces, and so, but again, this doesn't, in a grand scheme of things, protect you from the virus. It may just initially protect you from maybe breathing or inhaling someone coughing on you, but I guess it might, it's an initial scare tactic. I'm not quite sure if I will actually use it, but that's one of the tactics used to protect themselves in China. Now let's have a look at the cost of sporting events in Europe. Now, in terms of, Japan is meant to be hosting the Olympics, and they have spent about 12.4 billion on the Olympics to date. And also the IOC has already spent 5.5 billion. So that's a huge amount of money that's spent on the Olympics. And in terms of rights, NBC has already paid 1.1 billion for coverage rights. And in Europe, there's 1.45 billion that's already been paid by European broadcasters for the rights. So we're talking about a lot of money that's going to be lost. From a business startup perspective also, the small businesses that would benefit would also get a huge loss, or a huge financial cost would be felt. In terms of the situation in Japan currently, 180 people have the virus, and worldwide is 81,600 cases have been reported, and 2,700 deaths, and the figures are changing consistently. Now, in terms of the cost of sporting events in Europe, currently a lot of the football matches in Europe, specifically Italy, because Italy has the highest cases at the moment. A lot of the games have been cancelled. A rugby match between Italy and Scotland, and also 55,000 fans may not be able to watch the game there, and so we're looking at loss of 3 million to maybe up to 10 or even 15 million if that game is not played. We also have a situation whereby in Italy currently 300 people is infected with the virus, and 12 of them have died. So that's a huge kind of financial costs in terms of the negativity of that for Italy, because people will not be traveling there, and it's a hot spot for tourists. Juventus also is having a problem because they normally get at least 74 million euros from ticket sales. If their facility is not used for games moving forward, they would lose quite a bit of money, and therefore that could be a huge financial cost to Juventus. Now, in terms of this map, we can see here quite a bit of Italy from the top to bottom have had reported cases of the virus. So it's not necessarily cornered in any one location. It's actually spreading all over Italy, which is not good. So people are walking around with masks, just as in China, in light of this. Now, there's some, in terms of business startup, we're going to look at this a little bit more in detail in another video, so you look out for that one. But there would be huge financial implication for business startups. But be wise, prudent, and you should be able to survive. Now, we've looked at, in terms of a startup, it would be wise for you to look at other opportunities like becoming a blogger, or becoming an affiliate marketer, or becoming an e-commerce business starter, or selling sneakers online, or becoming a publisher. So these are some of the options. Instead of having to go out to your customer, you can actually contact your customer via the internet. And so online businesses would be the best way forward for a startup at the moment. So we have looked at the cost for businesses in China. We've also looked at the cost to businesses in other parts of the world, namely Europe. We've also looked at the solution for startups, and now we've concluded. Hope you've liked this video. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.